Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, westerns, translated fiction and a sad goodbye. It's my weekly wrap-up. So let's start with that sad goodbye. So as many of you watching this will know, Pax Panic, who was a fellow booktuber, very sadly passed away this week. So Pax was diagnosed with cancer, I think, towards the end of last year, and had been undergoing treatment since then. Personally, I'm shocked and devastated by the news. I really thought that Pax was going to pull through, because it seemed inconceivable that she couldn't. She was someone with so much life and enthusiasm and energy and kindness that it seemed inconceivable that she wouldn't be able to be this. And she was young as well. I think she was in her 30s. So it's a very sad week for many of us on BookTube, who counted Pax as a friend, as I did. She was part of my reading event, Garb August, last year. She was a wonderful host for that. She was someone, I communicated with and shared book recommendations with, and always enjoyed her videos, which were made with such creativity and humour, that, she will leave a big hole in the BookTube community, I think. So yeah, terribly sad news. And there are many people who were, much closer to her than I was, who knew her much better than I did, who were, really going through a terrible time at the moment. So my thoughts go out to all of them. And if any of them, want to reach out and chat, then I'm here. Okay, so normal format then for the rest of this video. So I'll talk about what I've been reading, talk about what I'm reading at the moment, and let you know what's been on the channel and what's coming on the channel in the week ahead. So what have I been reading? So I've got a stack of stuff here, and it's all quite different. So this week sees the end of Horror Mayhem. So May was dedicated to reading horror. We had Horror Mayhem. June, we've got June on the Range, so we are reading westerns. So there's kind of a nice, interesting mixture, and some stuff that's not typical for the channel as well, in terms of some stuff that's translated and a play as well, which definitely isn't typical for the channel. So let's do the horror stuff first. So I did put up a video this week where I talked about indie horror. So these were two of the books I talked about in that. So Clockmore Law by Frank O'Neill, which is a short story collection of kind of spooky stories, all centred around a small town in Northern Ireland, which I really, really enjoyed. And then Sleeping Among Wolves by Robert Royal Poff, which is a really interesting novella, so a kind of post-apocalyptic zombie kind of thing, but with a real heart to it as well. So I really enjoyed this. It's really gripping and really moving. I had a really good time with it. Okay, so moving into westerns then. So I've read one western on my Kindle, a kind of shortish modern western novel, and by modern western I mean written recently rather than set recently. And a lot of the westerns that I'm going to be reading this month, and a lot of westerns generally, are older. It's a hugely popular genre, decades ago, much less popular now, but there are still people writing westerns. So I read one that was recommended by Dave Brzezinski, which is called Revenge is a Cold Pistol, by an author called Mike Chin, which was really fun. So it was short, it was about 120 pages, really fast paced, about this mysterious kind of gunman type character taking on kind of entitled racists, basically, in the Old West. So it was a very entertaining read. I did enjoy that. And then I'm also reading, so this is kind of a currently reading, but I'll show it now because it's Western, The Complete Western Stories by Elmore Leonard. So I'm doing a buddy read of this with a few other booktubers. I've read the first 3 stories so far. So this collects Elmore Leonard's short stories that were originally published typically in kind of Western magazines and men's adventure magazines. And it's got these lovely end papers where you can see the covers of some of those magazines. So yeah, I've read the first 3 stories. They're kind of just solid Western fare, but Leonard's got such a nice prose style. They make them, very entertaining to read. So enjoying that so far. And there's 30 stories, I think, in this book. So I think I'm going to try and read one a day throughout the rest of the month. And then other things then. So let's do this one first. So In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami. Which was a strange and disturbing book. So I will probably do a separate, standalone review of this one, because it definitely falls into that kind of disturbing books space. It's interesting. So it's about a young Japanese guy who works in Tokyo as kind of a guide taking tourists around the red light district, and he gets hired to take this American guy around. And fairly quickly realises there's something off about this guy. Frank is the guy's name. As things progress, you discover more and more disturbing things about Frank. And there's one scene in particular which is just absolutely horrific. It was a good entertaining is probably the wrong word, gripping and interesting read. I then read this Jawbone by Monica Ojeda, which was for the World of Horror book group that Michelle from the channel Michelle's Melancholia runs. So this is an Ecuadorian novel, which is a blend of kind of horror and female coming of age story, I guess, about this teacher, female teacher, who gets imprisoned by some of her students. It's a very strange book, and it pulls on all different sorts of things. Different like classic horror writers like Lovecraft, things like kind of creepypasta and that kind of thing, but told with a real kind of energy to it that I found really infectious, and it's somewhat not confusing exactly, but it's got that kind of dreamlike feel to it at times. But overall, I found it really effective. I kind of couldn't really tell where it was going for quite a lot of the book, but when it got there at the end, I thought it was really effective. So yeah, and definitely an interesting read, and interesting to read some horror in translation, which isn't something I do that often. And then read something very different but excellent, The Pillow Man by Martin McDonough, which is a play. So this is a book that was recommended for my Disturbing Books project, and it really is disturbing and incredibly effective. I don't think I've read a play since I was at school and was forced to read plays, but I was astounded by how drawn in I was to this story, purely through the dialogue. So it's about this kind of oppressive state. You never find out where it is. And this guy who's a writer who's been brought in for questioning by the secret police about a string of murders. And it goes in all sorts of different directions, but very much something that's about the act of writing, and the importance of kind of freedom of speech and things like that. But the way that totalitarian regimes can crack down on expression, not just in writing but just generally, and how that impacts society. So I thought it was really, really interesting, and I will do a full review of this one at some point. So that's what I have. That's what I have read this week. As I said, I'm reading the Elmore Leonard collection ongoing. Also continuing to listen to the audiobook of The Cowboy and the Cossack by Claire Huffaker, which I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through now, which is really entertaining. Just one of those really entertaining books that mixes, it's exciting, there's a bit of romance, there's a lot of humour, and just a wonderful story about guys working together and overcoming their differences. So really, really enjoying that. And then I've also started this morning Lone Women by Victor Laval, which is fantastic. So I'm about 20% of the way through it, and it's completely gripping. So it's about this, so it's set in I think 1915 or around then, and it's about this young black woman who travels alone across the country to take up like a kind of homestead. Kind of, she's bought a plot of land basically, and is going to farm it out in the wilderness on the frontier. So yeah, really, but really, really gripping so far. She's got this huge steamer trunk that she carries around with her, carts around with her, which has got something in it, and we don't, from the start that there's something mysterious in this thing, but we haven't found out what it is yet. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. Fantastically written and just really engaging and gripping, and the central character is really a really good character, really a character you really care about, and really want to succeed. So yeah, enjoying that a great deal so far. In terms of channel stuff then, so in the last week or so, you've had my new regular manga video, Manga Monday video, which doesn't seem to be, people don't seem to enjoy very much, or don't seem to watch very much anyway. I think the people who do watch it enjoy it. So I'm thinking maybe I'll rethink the Manga Mondays thing, because I'm certainly getting far less views on those videos than I do on other videos. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. Let me know if you think I should keep putting them up. I also did a tag video, which I hadn't done a tag video for a while, so I did the Edge of Reading tag, which is a very complex kind of philosophical tag, but I quite enjoyed doing that. I did, as I said, a review of 4 indie horror books. I did a video about some indie horror magazines I'd read. I did a video of me eating a pickle, which was something a bit different for the channel, but people seem to have been amused by. I'm just staring at my list. I think that's about it. Oh, and I did my June TBR video as well. And then in the week ahead, I will do another manga video on Monday. But as I say, they may not last for that much longer, but I'll definitely do one this Monday. I'm going to do the June on the Range, or I think it's called the Rootin' Tootin' June on the Range tag, with some questions about westerns and things like that. I've got a video review of a short story called Eric the Pie by an author called Graham Masterton. And I'm going to do my May wrap-up video as well, and I'll have another review video in there too, but I'm not sure quite what it will be yet. So I hope you found that interesting. Do let me know in the comments if you've read any of the books I talked about. Let me know what you've been reading this week. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.